Hello everyone, welcome to week 4 lecture videos. Our today's topic is asset allocation and risk aversion. The process of portfolio management involves two key decisions, the asset allocation decision and the security selection decision. In this learning objective, we explore the concept of asset allocation. Asset allocation is the process of determining how an investor allocates the total wealth across different asset classes. For example, it's the question of what proportion of your wealth is invested in property, what proportion to invest in equities, what proportion to invest in bonds, and so forth. While making the asset allocation decision, an investor will consider his or her own personal characteristics, such as risk tolerance, goals, and investment time frame. There are two different approaches to asset allocation, strategic asset allocation and tactical asset allocation. With strategic asset allocations, the primary goal is for investors to pursue their own personal characteristics, and most importantly here is their degree of risk aversion, and to come up with a mix across asset classes that completely meet those personal characteristics. The only way that the asset allocation then changes with respect to strategic asset allocation is to rebalancing back to the original position to continually reflect the particular objectives and means of the investor. Tactical asset allocation, on the other hand, is more commonly known as market timing. This is the process of dynamically allocating across asset classes based on predictions on how markets are going to perform in the future. For example, when investors in the belief that market is going to do well generally in the future, then they will dynamically allocate a large portion of their wealth into high-risk assets such as equities. On the other hand, when investors believe that financial markets generally accounted poorly, they will dynamically allocate their assets towards low risk or risk-free assets. Well, when most people think about investing in portfolio, they focus on the idea of security selection. That is, they think of investing as whether to invest in, for example, BHP versus Commonwealth Bank shares. However, the asset allocation decision is in fact arguably most important. Research has shown that asset allocation explains a large portion of the variance in performance across different portfolio managers. For example, the quote that we see here in the screen, here is a statement that says that up to 94% of differences in total returns achieved by pension fund managers can be attributed to asset allocation decision. Similarly, academic studies have found that the proportion of overall difference in performance that can be explained by asset allocation is somewhere between 90 up to 97%. So while the number itself varies across different studies and different statements, the point remains the same. Asset allocation decision dominates the investment process. Hence, it's a really important consideration for all investors. So let's very quickly have a theoretical look at what asset allocation is all about and why it might be important. Recall that we have got assets in one particular asset class. For example, equities, we have a feasible set of investments. The feasible set are all the potential portfolios that can be constructed using a universe of equities, and that feasible set will be this cloud here, where we can basically be anywhere within that cloud. Although obviously we want to be in this efficient frontier at the top here, because that's where we have the highest expected return for a given level of risk. Previously, we have seen that we can combine our equities asset class with a risk-free rate of return and construct this new efficient frontier, which is the combination of the optimal risky portfolio at this point of tangency and the risk-free rate of return. Now that particular example we showed here, where we had one risky asset class, that was equities. So these red dots might reflect the risk and return of all the different stocks in our universe. And we came up with that efficient frontier such that A, in our optimal risky portfolio, where A universe of assets comprises only equities. But what if we suddenly add additional asset classes? So here, for example, we have the green dots means bonds, the orange dots might be investment in property, and the blue dots might be investment in other asset class such as currency, for example. Well, if we are combining across these multiple asset classes, we are expanding our universe of potential investment. So what we also find is when we tend to diversify across asset classes, that across asset classes assets have lower correlation, then there are greater diversification benefits. Given this benefit, what we tend to find is that the efficient frontier actually pushes outwards, such as we have now a new optimal risky portfolio comprising the combination of risky asset across all asset classes. So when we combine the new optimal risky portfolio with a risk-free rate, we have this combination of assets that is actually superior to previous optimal risky portfolio. Now we can see in this particular example, we can combine B with the risk-free rate of return. We can come up with a portfolio C which dominates A that is clearly superior. So this is the theoretical reason which is important for investor to consider allocating across asset classes and why it is arguably the most important decision that they might make. Thank you very much. That's our discussion on Learning Objective 1. Please watch the next video for a discussion on Learning Objective 2. Thank you.